Ancient strategy, modern sales, one usable line per episode.
Last time, pause and read the signal. Today, the sentence that creates space. And why removing pressure is the fastest way to get a yes. Here's a moment I've lived through a dozen times. I'm on a call, the prospect likes the solution. Everything lines up, and then I feel it, the urge to close. So I lean in. So, should we move forward?
And
They hesitate. They say they need to think about it. They say they need to run it by their team. The energy shifts. Something closed that was open a minute ago. By the end of this episode, you'll know the one sentence that prevents that shutdown, and why giving space actually speeds up decisions. My old belief: if the prospect is warm, push for the close. Don't give them time to cool off. If they leave the call without committing, the deal is at risk.
sounds urgent.
It felt urgent, but every time I pushed, the same thing happened. They pulled back, not because they didn't want the solution, but because something in the moment made them uncomfortable.
The pressure to perform.
The pressure to perform.
When you ask someone to decide on the spot, you're not just asking for a business decision. You're asking them to commit in front of you, under observation. That triggers a survival response. The brain reads it as a trap. Even when the deal is good. Sun Tzu understood this deeply. Bu zan er chu ren ji bing, shan ji shan je yi. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the supreme excellence.
How does that connect to giving space?
The greatest victories happen without force. When you pressure a prospect to decide, you're fighting. When you give them space, you're allowing them to choose freely. A free choice sticks. A forced choice unravels. Hold that. We'll return to it.
So Sun Tzu's point is, the best win doesn't feel like a battle at all.
Precisely. And in sales, the best close doesn't feel like a close. It feels like a natural conclusion the prospect reached on their own. You don't push them across the line. You remove every reason not to cross it.
And the moment I push for the close, I become a reason not to cross it.
You become the pressure, the obstacle, the thing they need to escape from. Your eagerness registers as a threat. Not logically, neurologically. The amygdala doesn't distinguish between a predator and a pushy salesperson.
That's a rough comparison.
But accurate. When the brain detects pressure, the default response is withdraw, stall, ask for more time. Not because the prospect is indecisive, because they're protecting themselves from a decision that feels unsafe.
So the problem isn't that they need more time. The problem is that I made the moment feel dangerous.
And the fix is one sentence. Let's look at what pressure actually costs before we get to the line.
What does closing pressure actually cost?
3 things, each one invisible in the moment. First, you lose candor. The moment a prospect feels pressured, they stop telling you what they really think. They give you polite resistance instead of honest objections. I need to think about it, replaces, I'm worried about implementation. You lose the information you need most.
Second,
you shift the frame from partnership to transaction. Until that moment, you were a trusted advisor helping them solve a problem. The instant you push for the close, you become a seller trying to extract a commitment. The relationship changes, and it's hard to change it back.
And third,
you create post-decision anxiety. Even if they say yes under pressure, they second-guess the decision immediately. Buyer's remorse starts before the ink dries. They look for reasons to back out. The deal that closed fast unravels faster.
So the pattern is, I push for the close. They feel cornered. They either stall or say yes reluctantly. If they stall, I chase. If they agree under pressure, they regret it later. Either way, the deal suffers.
And you blame the prospect for being indecisive.
When I'm the one who made the decision feel unsafe.
So here's what works instead.
One sentence.
One sentence that changes everything. But first, 3 signals that tell you the prospect needs space, not a push. Signal 1. They start asking logistical questions. How does onboarding work? What's the contract length? These aren't objections. They're buying signals. They're mentally test driving the purchase. Don't interrupt that process with a close. Let them explore.
Signal 2.
They go quiet after hearing the price. Silence after pricing is not rejection. It's processing. The worst thing you can do in that moment is fill the silence with justification. Let the silence work. Their brain is doing the math. Let it finish.
And the third signal.
They mention other people. I'd need to check with my partner. My team would want to see this. That's not a stall, it's integration. They're imagining how this fits into their world. When you hear these signals, don't push. Create space. Now, the one line for this episode.
Let's hear it.
You don't need to decide today.
That's it. That doesn't feel like selling.
That's the point. The moment you say those 7 words, something shifts. The pressure drops. The prospect relaxes. And paradoxically, relaxed prospects decide faster. Not slower, faster, because you just removed the thing that was blocking the decision.
So the line isn't about delaying the decision.
It's about freeing it. When someone hears, you don't need to decide today, their brain stops running escape routes and starts evaluating the actual offer. You've turned a threat into a choice. And people commit to choices. They resist threats. Variant 2. After delivering key information, take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere.
That signals patience and availability at the same time.
It says, I'm confident in my offer. I don't need you to rush. That confidence is contagious. Prospects trust people who aren't desperate.
And the third version.
When you sense them tensing up at any point, there's no wrong answer here.
That removes the fear of making a mistake.
Most decision paralysis isn't about choosing the wrong vendor. It's about looking foolish. When you say, there's no wrong answer here, you lower the emotional stakes. The logical brain can finally work without the emotional brain screaming warnings.
3 tools. You don't need to decide today. Take whatever time you need. There's no wrong answer here. All about releasing pressure instead of applying it.
Let's lock them in.
Here's my takeaway. Closing pressure doesn't accelerate decisions, it blocks them. The prospect isn't indecisive, they're reacting to a threat. When you remove the pressure, the decision happens naturally.
Keep going.
Sun Tzu said the supreme excellence is winning without fighting. A premature close is a fight. It triggers resistance, kills candor, and creates regret. The principle, 3 signals that space is needed. Logistical questions mean they're buying. Silence means they're processing. Mentioning others means they're integrating.
Drill zone. Come back here before your next closing conversation. You're on a call. The prospect is interested. Everything is aligned. Your instinct says, close now. What do you say instead?
You don't need to decide today.
Again, like you mean it. Like you're genuinely fine waiting.
You don't need to decide today.
Good. Now the patience signal.
Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere.
And the safety release.
There's no wrong answer here.
The sequence. Urge to close hits. Reset. You don't need to decide today. Read. Are they asking logistics, going silent, or mentioning others? Release. There's no wrong answer here. Don't corner them. Give them space to choose.
Reset, read, release.
This week's test. Find one conversation where you feel the urge to push for a decision. Use the line instead. Say, you don't need to decide today. Then observe what happens.
And if they decide faster?
Then you've learned that space isn't the enemy of decisions. Pressure is. The paradox works every time.
Which tool should I try first?
Whichever fits your week. A. You don't need to decide today. B. Take whatever time you need. Or C. There's no wrong answer here. Drop your pick in the comments. I read every one.
What's next?
how to exit without burning trust, and why the way you leave a conversation determines whether they invite you back. Same calm tone, one usable line.
Ancient strategy, modern sales, one usable line per episode.